Today, the United Nations Security Council passed its first resolution calling for an unconditional ceasefire in Gaza. It was a 14-0 vote. Note that I said it was unanimous, 14-0. And that is because, in an astonishing and rare move, the United States abstained. Here you see Linda Thomas-Greenfield, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, voting to abstain, clearing the way for the measure to pass. The U.S. has vetoed 3 previous resolutions demanding a halt to the fighting, and just a few days ago had presented its own resolution to the Security Council, using the toughest U.S. language yet, calling for an immediate and sustained halt to the fighting in connection with the release of the hostages. It was also the first time the U.S. had used the term ceasefire since the war began. But the U.S. resolution failed after Russia and China vetoed it. Still, that resolution and Monday's decision to abstain are the latest glaring signs of the Biden administration's frustration with Israel's approach to its war on Hamas in Gaza. And it's a notable break with America's long-standing defense of the Israeli government, usually come what may. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is the source of the Biden administration's frustration, reacted angrily to the U.S. vote to abstain, canceling a high-level delegation to Washington for meetings with U.S. officials. The meetings had been scheduled to discuss alternatives to a planned Israeli offensive into Rafah, the southern city where more than 1 million people have sought refuge, amid U.S. concerns over the death toll in Gaza, now topping 31,000, and the growing risk of mass starvation. Joining me now is Trita Parsi, Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, and Nayyera Haq, MSNBC columnist, former State Department Senior Advisor, and former White House Senior Director. Thank you both for being here. Trita, this is a big deal. Explain to us, give us some context as to why it is so major for the U.S. to abstain.
It is a very big deal because we have seen in the last month and a half or so that the administration had shifted its rhetorical position and started talking about a ceasefire, talking about the need for the fighting to end, etc. But we had not seen any real shift in its position. Today, by abstaining to this resolution, which had the clearest demand for a ceasefire yet, we actually saw a change in the position as well. Now, that's not enough, however. It all depends now on the implementation of this. And only the United States and Biden has the leverage to be able to put pressure on Israel to actually follow through and get to a ceasefire. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen, but at least we have taken one step forward in the right direction.
You know, and Nayyera, it is clear that there are political incentives for President Biden to shift his position, obviously rifts within the Democratic base. But also, you know, you and I talk a lot about the rise of the global South. I just want to note for our audience who put forward this resolution. It was the 10 non-permanent members of the Security Council: Algeria, Guyana, Republic of Korea, Sierra Leone, Slovenia, Ecuador, Japan, Malta, Mozambique, and Switzerland. And I want to let you listen to Ambassador Carolyn Rodriguez-Burkett, who is Guyana's permanent representative to the United Nations. This is what she said on Monday.
After more than 5 months of a war of utter terror and destruction, a ceasefire is the difference between life and death for the hundreds of thousands of Palestinians and others. For the people in Gaza, there is man-made starvation, and we are already seeing evidence of a man-made famine. All of this when there is food available, but deliberately withheld.
It definitely feels, Nayyera, that this is a rare instance, even though it was an abstention, of the U.S. allowing the global South to speak.
Oh, and even the fact that prior to this, South Africa is the country that tried to bring a case against Israel, right? Given South Africa's own history of apartheid and how that language has been used in the Israel-Palestinian context, that was also a deeply powerful move at the UN. The UN was originally created largely to be European powers, right? Western powers having dominance and continuing in a diplomatic way the imperialism that they had presented to the rest of the world for so long. The reform at the UN to even bring in members of the global South onto the Security Council has been part of that recognition that so much of what is done in the global body impacts people outside of the United States, right? Like the big global economies, the G7, the G20, all of those ultimately they control the money, but the impact is on the people in countries like Guyana, like South Africa, and in the global South.
And Trita, let's talk about that, the implementation, because you said the important thing is now what happens next. You've still got a big fight within the United States and Europe against UNRWA, which is a UN agency that has helped to feed Palestinian people. You have what does appear to be mass starvation, perhaps near famine conditions in Gaza. What would you expect if the U.S. is serious about getting a ceasefire that they do next? You still have hostages stuck there, too. There's a lot they still have to do.
I mean, ultimately, nothing is going to change unless Biden is willing to put a halt to the arms sales to Israel. According to an Israeli general, if the U.S. stops sending the arms and the ammunition, the Israelis will run out within 5 days, and then we will have a ceasefire. So far, Biden has not been willing to do so. And I have to say, there was also a missed opportunity in all of this. The fact that the U.S. abstained was so positively received. It was a moment of healing. But then the U.S. turned around, the Biden administration turned around and started saying that this resolution is not legally binding. That's actually factually incorrect. But what it did, it had really created a lot of tensions with a lot of these different countries that saw this as an opportunity to be able to mend fences with the United States, bring the U.S. along for a ceasefire. And then the Biden administration turns around and said that this is not legally binding. And incidentally, that would also mean that the call or the demand for the unconditional and immediate release of all the hostages is also not legally binding. Why would the administration say such?
Let me let you weigh in on that, Nayera. What is going on here? Because it does feel like they're still trying to have it both ways, but there's a clear enough rebuke that Bibi heard it and canceled his meetings in Washington. Your take?
It's the difference between the United Nations being a place of norms and standard setting and bilateral relationships between two countries being where the real action happens, where real change is made. So that's what Bibi is reacting to, the fact that the United States was no longer doing the we support Israel no matter what at the United Nations, where frankly often it is needed given the threats that Israel has faced on the world stage. But on the flip side, Bibi is also facing a hard reality back at home where people, even his own war cabinet, is looking to remove him and make a change to his own war policy. So this is this extreme reaction of pulling back a delegation from the United States is not really even about the U.S. relationship. It's about Bibi's sending signals to people in his own country that he is still a strong and confident leader.
We are out of time, but it'll be interesting to see if Biden keeps moving in this direction and takes Trita's advice and actually puts some meat on those bones. Trita Parsi, Nayera Haq, thank you very much.
Hey, everyone. MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.